Hello, I call the September 5th, 2023 City Council special meeting and possible executive session to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, please conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor David Ortega.
Present.
Vice Mayor Kathy Littlefield.
Present.
Council members Tammy Caputi.
Here.
Tom Durham.
Present.
Barry Graham.
Here.
Betty Janik.
Present.
And Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Jim Thompson.
Here.
City Attorney Sherry Scott.
Here.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll proceed with the purpose of this possible executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss and consult with designated representatives of the city in order to consider the city's position and instruct its representatives regarding potential contracts that could be the subject of future negotiations, and or to discuss legal advice, legal concerns, and possible litigation with the city's attorneys, all arising out of the Rio Verde Foothills Standpipe District that was formed in accordance with ARS 9-500.40 and the lack of a planned water supply for developed homes and properties in the Rio Verde Foothills area located outside of the city of Scottsdale in Maricopa County. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Yes, we have a motion and a second. Please register your vote. Thank you. That's unanimous. We are now recessed into executive session. So we are now resuming our special session. And just for the record, we did have an executive session and we adjourned that executive session. We will note that all council members are here, and I will, do we have any music to cue till Vice Mayor returns? Because I saw her just around the corner, okay? But we would, there she is. So at this point, the purpose of our special meeting is to look at boards and commissions and task force interviews and appointments. This evening, the City Council will be appointing individuals to 4 boards, commissions, and task forces. I will now turn the meeting over to Vice Mayor Littlefield to begin the process.
Thank you, Mayor. The Scottsdale City Council is responsible for establishing city policies and enacting laws in support of those policies. The council relies on volunteer, citizen-based boards and commissions to research issues and make recommendations in support of the council's missions and goals. The information and recommendations provided by council-appointed advisory boards are a valuable tool in helping council members in their deliberations. And this afternoon, the City Council will be appointing Scottsdale residents interested in serving on various boards and commissions. I want to thank all of the individuals for their willingness to volunteer their time in service to our community. Following the set of interviews, we'll vote on appointments for the boards or commission that is under discussion. As I call your name, please approach the podium and briefly cover the following. For the record, please state your name and address and how long you have lived in Scottsdale. Please tell us how your education, employment, or volunteer experience relates to this board or commission, and what is the top issue facing this board or commission, in your opinion. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes or less, if possible, and we have a timer by the screen to help manage your time. Following each nominee's response, I will ask council members if they have any follow-up questions for you. Our first board this evening is the Development Review Board, and there is one opening. The purpose of the Development Review Board is to review and approve architectural design and layout of proposed development plans. There is one vacancy, and there are 3 nominees. Christopher Schroeder has withdrawn his application from consideration. The nominees are Julie Berry, Thomas Kuby, and David Mason. We will begin with Julie Berry, if she can come to the podium.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Julie Berry. I live at 4319 North Granite Reef Road, 85251. I was born and raised in South Scottsdale, and I actually grew up on the same street that my grandparents moved to in the 50s. I attended the same elementary and high schools as my parents, and I'm now raising my 4 children in a neighborhood not too far from where I grew up. So I've lived in Scottsdale for over 30 years. I don't want to get much more specific than that. And to say that I'm invested in Scottsdale and its future, I think would be an understatement. As a longtime resident and a Scottsdale native, I think I would bring a unique perspective to the development of our city and its future. I would use my diverse business skills from working with a civil engineering and architecture firm, as well as running a small residential real estate investment and management company, to leverage the board members and stakeholders involved and to help take into account and valuing resident input to reach sustainable and viable solutions. I think one of the main issues facing the board right now is to improve the quality and the sustainability of future projects in our city. I think those projects need to enhance our brand as a resort community, but also create spaces that residents enjoy and are proud of as well. I think that water conservation is one of the biggest areas within the sustainability arena that we can work on to keep our city moving forward. It's an honor to be considered with these other nominees, and I would love the chance to serve this community that's helped to shape my life in so many ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have a question for you, Mayor.
Yes. Hello, Ms. Berry. You're aware of our recusal policy and how that is required to recuse and
Sure.
what terms? Could you please let me?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not super specific with all of the details, but I do know if you're involved with a project in the city, then you recuse yourself from that.
Sure. And your employer is a company owned by Ali Faki.
So I'm not employed by Ali. I'm a consultant that works on the financial and accounting side of his business.
Okay, so as I read your resume, it said that you were working there, but you're a consultant
Yeah.
for the firm that, with Mr. Faki.
Correct.
So that may raise some questions. He recuses himself quite a bit from cases.
Right.
And that would put you in the similar position of either being a consultant employee or direct employee.
Okay.
I think at one point he recused 42 times or so.
Okay.
That made the board a little short on, membership on those cases. I just thought I'd get that clarified. Although that shows on your resume that is the same company as Mr. Faki. He terms off in December, and then we are filling one board commission on DR board and 3 more in December.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd get that clarification. It's pretty stringent as far as being related or
Okay.
financial interest in any applicant.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the council? No? Thank you so much. Next, we have Thomas Kuby.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Tom Kuby, a 26-year resident of Scottsdale, having raised 4 great children here. I reside at 12740 East Sunnyside Drive. and I thank you for the opportunity to be considered for the Development Review Board. You have my complete application, and I was able to forward some additional information to further flesh out my background, because you don't leave a lot of space on those applications to provide data. If I may just summarize some key points for you. I developed 12 residential facilities in Arlington County, Virginia, for mentally ill and developmentally disabled residents. I served on the Scottsdale Unified Bond Oversight Committee for the high school renovations, facilitated the development of the K-12 school equalization standards here in Arizona, and similarly for the state of Ohio, developed nationally disseminated planning guides for K-12 and college facilities addressing planning, design, environmental and sustainability concerns, construction, siting criteria, and community engagement. Developed assessment tools for existing structures, including older and historic buildings, to evaluate current and repurposed uses. And we actually use those assessment guides to look at all of Arizona's schools back when the equalization standards were put into place. At the federal level, I've managed grants and collaborated with agencies such as EPA, FEMA, the Department of Energy, and the National Park Service on development and construction issues to improve building performance. Scottsdale is a wonderful place to live, and I think a well-run city. I'd like to contribute to that ongoing success. You asked candidates our thoughts on the top issue facing the council and before the DRB. You rely on your boards and commissions, and I think that the long-term issue facing the DRB is to remain focused and continue to help you, the City Council, receive good, data-driven information to assist you to approve quality developments that contribute to the overall vision of Scottsdale, its long-term plan, and the quality of life for its residents. I believe my background and contributions to thoughtful planning and development can contribute to the work of the DRB and the work you do in evaluating proposals. If appointed, I look forward to serving, and I'm happy to field any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Kuby? Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have David Mason.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, thank you for the privilege of being nominated to the Development Review Board. I believe that my background would add elements of real estate industry, engineering, and technology to the excellent work of the board that it's already doing. I hold a master's degree in engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology. I've served 7 years with the U.S. Army and attained the rank of captain. I have extensive experience with data communications and technology with the United States government. Plus, I was a member of the Scottsdale Working Group on Short-Term Rental Properties and have an excellent appreciation of how short-term rental issues may affect development, housing affordability, housing availability, and community. I have a 40-year background in the real estate industry, including all aspects of it. That includes land assemblage and development, property sales, design review, design development, architectural elements, and sales, processing of analysis, of market analysis, and residential real estate, commercial real estate, and luxury homes. I believe that the top issue facing the Design Review Board is to continue to ensure that development enriches the lives of all the citizens of Scottsdale, furthers public health, safety, and the general welfare, and considers a relationship with the surrounding environment and community, and contribute to Scottsdale being a city that we can all be proud of and live in. This means ensuring that development can balance the needs of development with the needs of preserving Scottsdale and Scottsdale's neighborhoods' character, livability, and viability. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Are there any questions for this candidate? Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, I will now entertain a vote for the Development Review Board, and each council member can vote for one nominee. And I would ask that we leave a moment or two between votes to give Rommel time to mark his board up there, because sometimes we run ahead of him. So appreciate that. We will begin with Councilman Durham.
Julie Berry.
David Mason.
Mayor.
Mason?
Thomas Kuby.
David Mason. Julie Berry.
Mr. Kuby.
Okay. Is that everyone? Yes, it is. And Mr. Mason
I think you need a majority.
he didn't get a majority. No.
What do we do?
Vice Mayor, thank you, Sherry Scott from the Legal Department. This
Yes,
presents an
thank you.
awkward,
I leave this to you.
this presents an awkward situation. I'm not sure that our rules cover this. Normally, we drop off the applicant with the least number of votes. Here we have a tie. So I would suggest the council vote again. Hopefully, one of you will change your mind.
Okay. We can try that. Let me begin with Betty Janik.
David Mason. Julie Berry.
Mr. Kuby.
David Mason.
David Mason.
David Mason?
Mr. Kuby. All right.
Mr. Mason's been appointed.
David Mason has been appointed. Thank you very much.
And Mayor, Vice Mayor, if I could mention again, there will be 3 positions on DR Board coming
Yes.
up in December.
Yes,
So,
and
as well as other applicants that may want to.
and for those who did not get the application win tonight, your names will be on the applications for the next time we appoint. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, maybe we should contemplate language for that event that happens in the future as far as tie breaking. Thank you.
That was interesting.
It worked.
It worked. We did good. Okay. Our next board is the Library Board. Library Board advises City Council on general policy relating to the programs, services, and future development of the Scottsdale Public Libraries. There are 2 vacancies and 5 nominees. The nominees are Jan DeBacchus, Freda Hartman, Leslie Totten, John Walnut, and Christine Wilson. Jan DeBacchus and Christine Wilson are unable to attend tonight, but both are still interested in serving on the board and wish their names to be continued as possibilities. So our interviews will begin this evening with Freda Hartman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and council members. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Freda Hartman, and I live at 12106 East Weathersfield Drive in Scottsdale. I am a 16-year resident of Scottsdale, and I say that very proudly. It's a wonderful community. I am currently the vice chair of the Library Board. I also am the liaison to the Friends of the Library, and I last year served on the Strategic Planning Committee for the public libraries here that developed the 5-year strategic plan, which was a great experience. So libraries have been very much a part of my life. In addition to that, let me say a little bit about my background. I have a bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree in business, and my career has been, as you might imagine, having those degrees in higher education and corporate education. I've been in administration and as faculty and teaching. In fact, I'm currently teaching, and this is our first week of the term, so we're very happy about that. Prior to moving to Scottsdale, I lived in another community in which I was very active as a library a volunteer. I served on their library board, and I chaired it for 3 years. So I have to say that libraries have been a central part of my life forever, and that's what drives my passion and my commitment. The top issue facing our library board, well, there are many, but what I would say is the expansion of access. You know, our patrons have desires and needs, what they would like to see our library to be. And they know Scottsdale is a world-class community, and they want their world-class community to have a world-class public library. And so expanding access, expanding and extending materials, particularly digital materials. A lot more people are online these days. Reaching out to our seniors and members of our community who can't make it physically to the branches is very important. So we think that that is, you know, access, digital resources, and providing upgraded technology are the key issues. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity and your support.
Thank you also. Are there any questions? No? Thank you so much. Next, we have Leslie Totten.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Ortega and members of the council. I'm Leslie Totten, and I live at 10665 East Saguaro Drive in Scottsdale, 85259. I have been a resident of Scottsdale for over 40 years. We have raised our family in the Scottsdale community and have participated in all of the library branches actively. I've served as a library volunteer at the library bookshop, when it used to be at the Palomino branch at the Desert Mountain High School campus. I continue to go to all of this City of Scottsdale library bookshops to stock my very popular free little library in the front of our home. I am the Chief People Officer at the Arizona Early Childhood Development and Health Board, also known as First Things First. I have a degree in communication from Arizona State University, and my master's degree is in early childhood education with an emphasis in early literacy. My passion and my focus is on early literacy for families and engaging them in literacy-rich environments, which obviously is our library community. I understand that the library is a fairly young library for the City of Scottsdale, as the Civic Center opened officially its doors in 1968. And I believe that the city has done a great job supporting library services, but I would hope to see increased access and engagement for young families around our community across the diverse population in Scottsdale, as well as promoting tourism, because the library can act as a hub to support the rich culture of our city and to offer resources and information for families and their visitors. So thank you for the nomination and your time today.
Thank you. Next, we have John Walnut.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you. My name is John Walnut. I've lived in Scottsdale for 13 years and 22 days, to be exact. And I live at 9350 North 110th Street in Scottsdale, 85259. My background has been as an academic. I've been a professor and administrator in universities all my life, and I have spent a fair amount of time first in libraries as a user for the research I did, for the articles and books I published, and for the courses that I've developed. Subsequent to that, I shifted from teaching public administration to being an administrator in universities, and I was a department chair, a dean, a provost, and vice chancellor for academic affairs, which is academic speak for the chief academic officer and the chief operating officer. In that role, I had worked with the libraries in those two universities very closely, whether it was issues of, acquisitions, patron safety, whether it were issues of interlibrary loans, electronification of holdings, and so on. So I'm quite familiar with the library both as a user and as a person in a supervisory role. The question of what are the major issues facing, I have to say that as a patron of the libraries here, I'm very pleased. I think they're doing an excellent job. I've seen that they have been growing since the COVID times, and they're increasing demand, for all their services and their collections. It's a fine library system. I don't see any real, the one little cloud I see on the horizon doesn't necessarily focus on our library here, but that's the whole question of restricting access. There's some people who are talking about, banning books and so on. I think that in a democracy, we have a marketplace of ideas, and therefore these things should be open and available to everybody, and I would hate to see us go down a rabbit hole of trying to restrict it. Clearly, there are vulnerable populations, youth in particular, but it seems to me that where the control should be exerted there is at the familial level. Parents should be making decisions as to what is the appropriate material for their particular child at his or her stage of development and maturity. And happy to answer any questions if I can.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Thank you. Okay, and Christine Wilson is not here this evening, although she is still interested in serving on the board. So we can take votes. Each council member will have 2 votes for the 2 openings that are available. We'll begin with Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you. I will place my votes for reappointment of Freda Hartman and Leslie Totten.
Mayor?
Freda Hartman and Leslie Totten.
Thank you. Freda Hartman and Leslie Totten. It's a hard decision.
Freda Hartman and Leslie Totten.
Freda Hartman, Leslie Totten.
Mr. Graham?
Ms. Hartman and Ms. Dabauskas.
Freda Hartman and Leslie Totten.
Thank you so much. Freda Hartman and Leslie Totten has been elected. Thank you. Again, all candidates that were not appointed tonight are going to stay on the roster for future openings in the library board. Our next board, or commission actually is Parks and Recreation. We have 2 openings for Parks and Recreation. This commission advises the City Council on the acquisitions of lands and faculties for use as parks and recreational centers, and on the operation, use, care, and maintenance of these parks and recreational centers. There are 2 vacancies, and there are 5 nominees. The nominees are Jamie Alford, Robert Blackwell, Susan McGarry, Dennis Seffner, and Michael Vreeland. And the interviews will begin with Jamie Alford.
Mayor Ortega and council members, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Jamie Alford. I reside at 10248 East Penstemon Drive, 85255, located in McDowell Mountain Ranch community. I have been a proud resident of Scottsdale for 20 years, having relocated here from Orlando, Florida, where there is a lot of parks. My work history, I retired after 35 years in the automotive aftermarket as a strategic account manager. This role involved managing key accounts at the corporate level, securing promotions, organizing events, supply chain, contract negotiations, P&L management, and product compliance. I have a BA degree in business and marketing from Marshall University. Community service involves, I was a community outreach position with a women's organization, and I have volunteered and continue to support the Phoenix Rescue Mission. I also volunteered to collect signatures to help save our Gateway Preserve, which is adjacent to where I live. I feel really blessed to live here in Scottsdale. They helped me transition from my work experience from work to retirement. During that transition, I took full advantage of the programs they offered, classes, oil painting, bridge, tennis leagues, clinics, photography, securing meeting spaces, spring training, picnics at Horizon Park. And most importantly, they were affordable and free. And I wish that more Scottsdale residents knew about what these offerings were. I may have made so many friends from that. Some of the issues I think that would be a concern is that we need to prioritize safety in the parks and recreation facilities. Crime has been on the rise in our nation, our state, our cities, and it's overflowing into some of the parks. So I think it's important to take a look at that, and then we also need to get ahead of it. And then the second thing I wanted to add was the workforce, staffing and training. This is especially important in today's challenging work environment. I commend your efforts for getting ahead of this too with your mentoring and your internships. It's so important to develop young people to transition into the workforce. So I believe my work experience and my volunteer experience with the rescue mission and the account management would serve me well in this position. And I wanted to tell you that I did Google the top 10 parks and recreations in the nation. And I must admit, most of those cities I would not live in. And they do not compare to the lifestyle that Scottsdale offers. So thank you again. I really appreciate this. Scottsdale Parks and Recs has enriched my life, okay? Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions? No, thank you very much. Next, we have Susan McGarry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, well, we'll do it with her. That's okay. I just can't read.
I'm nervous enough as it is.
That's okay. I'll take some of that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the opportunity to serve on the commission for the last 3 years. I moved to Arizona in 1976 to go to school at ASU. Fellow Sun Devil to somebody in here, I heard. And never left. I've lived in Scottsdale for about 15 years with a couple of year break when my husband and I thought we were going to be beach bums in Southern California, but we needed jobs, so we came back here. That's kind of a joke, but anyway. I'm a lifelong community volunteer in the state of Arizona and the city of Phoenix, the city of Tempe, and the city of Scottsdale. I have a background in marketing and communications, so I probably bring a kind of unique perspective to the Parks and Rec Commission because I kind of look at what the Parks Department does through that lens of marketing and communications. Over the last 3 years, and I mentioned this to one of the council people the other day, I had no idea what it was going to be like serving on the Parks Commission. I knew what the parks were like. We all know what parks are like. We use the parks. They're important to us. But my life has been vastly improved by being involved on this commission. I have, I believe, conquered the steep learning curve that goes with stepping into a responsibility like this. And I believe I can be an even more valuable commissioner moving forward. I think the top issue facing, I say parks, in short for Parks and Rec, is of course funding. Funding is going to be the biggest challenge moving ahead, just as it's been the last few years. A prime example of when this funding concern will come up is in the park's current Indian Bend Wash master planning for the city's city's oldest parks in South Scottsdale, which are antiquated. They need to be upgraded. Population center is different that those parks serve. And that's a prime example of a funding challenge for the Parks Department. I really appreciate, again, the opportunity, and that concludes my little presentation.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? No? Thank you. Now, I go back to Robert Blackwell. Robert, I apologize. You were hidden under some notes here.
Hi, Mayor Ortega and council members. I'm Bob Blackwell, resident of 11428 East Sweetwater Avenue in Scottsdale 85259. I've been a resident of Scottsdale for 14 years, and thanks for considering me for the Parks and Rec Commission. Several years ago, I felt that I wanted to serve the city, and parks are an important aspect of that. They elevate the city for the residents and tourists. When they're considered and built with care, they play a role in cooling the city and increase safety when handling stormwater runoff. The park system provides community and sports and relaxation in an online world that's becoming progressively more online. To better understand how the city operated in 2019, I attended the Scottsdale 101 class and the Citizens Police Academy class, and then resumed this year with the Water Citizen Academy. But of these experiences, I think my serving on HOA boards is most relevant, where we get to research and decide on options for upgrading or maintaining property. Second to that, grad school taught me to work well with others as we developed our business cases, and last, working in finance and receivables, I'm focused on fiscal accountability. As far as key issues for the parks, you have safety, regular maintenance, availability for all, and continued investment. I think continued investment is paramount in a time of increasing costs and visitorship at the parks. There's a convergence of trends playing pressure on the parks in the way of higher density living that we have in the city, and then increased visitorship post the pandemic. But if appointed, I will work to ensure that these key issues are addressed in thoughtful and pragmatic ways. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Yes, Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. What was the, Mr. Blackwell, what was the comment you said about post-pandemic development? Sorry, I just couldn't hear that.
Oh, just that visitorship of the parks rose around the time of the pandemic. You could be outside and do things, and it's basically stayed at that higher level.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And next we have Dennis Seffner.
Mr. Mayor and Councilman, thank you very much for this opportunity to interview. My name is Dennis Seffner, and I live at 31211 North 77th Way. That's in Scottsdale at 85266. That's in the HOA of Bellicera. And I'm proud to tell you that I have lived in Scottsdale twice. 1985 through 2001, and we came back in 2010 after a tenure with Anheuser-Busch for 30 years, retired as a pricing manager in a region office in Tampa, Florida. But the call to the desert is always paramount with us. Born and raised in Southern California, went to Long Beach State, a degree in business management. Attended the Scottsdale 101 class. I'm proud to tell you that that was one of the inspirations to come and interview for this board. And I would like to tell you that I've been a volunteer at Pinnacle Peak Park since 2010. Actually, I'm the trail rover. Typically, at this time of the day, I would be closing the park, inviting our patrons or regulars to, this is time, we're going to be locking the gate pretty soon, time for you to exit stage left. So that's typically what I do for the city. And I would like you to know that I'm a realtor, and I have an understanding of some of the things of going as far as property management and that sort of things that would happen with the city as far as acquisitions and management of the parks. I feel that the number one issue in this is getting ahead of what's going on with the parks. And by that I'm saying that when I read in the wonderful Arizona Republic here the other day that the council is inundated by requests for pickleball, I'm going, well, if we had known that, it wouldn't have been a surprise, and we would have been able to plan ahead of the curve. And I'd like to be part of that process. Thank you very much. Appreciate your vote.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for this gentleman? Thank you. And finally, we have Michael Vreeland, candidate.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ortega, members of the City Council. I'm happy to be here. My name is Mike Vreeland. I live at 830 North 86th Place, 85257. That's in the Trails neighborhood. I'm honored to be with you all today, and I'm excited that I'm being considered for one of the open positions for the Parks and Recreation Commission. I feel like I'm an excellent candidate for this opening. On a personal level, I have spent years swimming laps at El Dorado Aquatic Center and Chaparral Pool, which underwent an amazing renovation recently, and it looks really great. I've ridden my bike to work countless times along the Greenbelt, and I've also ridden the train at the railroad park countless times with my little kids. I could see it in my sleep. On a community level, I've coached my daughter's soccer team for 9 seasons, and I've been able to use the parks as a place to practice, to go from different places depending on where families live for each different season, and being able to know that there's space there and there's going to be a place for us to be. Now I've watched as both of my kids get to learn to compete in the pool because they're a part of the summer rec season for Parks and Rec for the summer swim team. And on a citywide level, through organizations like Scottsdale Leadership, I've come to appreciate that there's a special role that Parks and Recreation plays in creating the character of Scottsdale. And you see that through the parks, and you see that through the pools, but you also especially see that through things like adaptive and senior services and the different programs that are taken advantage of by distinct and individual populations in our city. The biggest issue facing the commission, I believe, is how we continue to create and reimagine a truly exceptional series of spaces for our community. For example, the Indian Bin Wash and the Sonoran Desert Preserve, which we all know and love, are incredible and unique assets to our city. Due to the foresight of those that came before us, hopefully they will outlast us all. Those projects are decades from their creation now, so it begs the question, what role does Parks and Rec play in the next great project? This idea is actually expressed in the Parks and Rec strategic plan. It's goal BR2, and it talks about building parks for the future. When I read that, I zeroed in on it like a laser. Scottsdale has been building the parks of the future being the term that's used in the report, for the last 70 years. I'm eager to do what I can to help Scottsdale continue to build the parks of the future for the next 70 years. And I invite any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions? Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. That concludes our applicant nominees, and we can now entertain a vote for the Parks and Recreation Commission. Each council member will receive gets 2 votes, and we'll begin with the mayor.
Thank you. We are blessed with wonderful volunteers and people applying tonight, and we really appreciate that. My selections would be Michael Vreeland and Susan McCrary, and again, thanks to all applicants.
Thank you. I will vote for Susan McCrary and Michael Vreeland.
Likewise, I will vote for Susan McGarry and Michael Vreeland.
Robert Blackwell, Susan McGarry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I will vote for Ms. McGarry and Ms. Alford.
I will vote for Susan McGarry and Michael Vreeland.
I will just echo that. Oh my gosh, this is a great list of candidates. I will vote for Susan McGarry and Robert Blackwell.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like Susan McGarry and Michael Vreeland have been appointed. Thank you so much. Next, we have the Transportation Commission. The Transportation Commission advises the City Council on matters relating to the safe and efficient movement of vehicles, transit, pedestrians, and bicycles. The Commission provides a public forum to hear citizen complaints and requests regarding transportation matters. There is one vacancy and 3 nominees. The nominees are Dennis Doctor, Lee Kaufheld, and Robert Marman. We'll begin with Denise Doctor. She is our first interviewee, and she will be telephonically here, hopefully.
Yes.
Great, thank
Hello.
you. Hello. Welcome,
Sorry I
Doctor.
can't be with you today. I'm in Chicago. My name is Denise Doctor, and I live at 13297 East Summit Drive, Scottsdale 85259. We purchased our full-time retirement home there 2 years ago. So 5 things that I believe I could bring to the board are my strong engineering and project management background from pipeline and plant projects, which is a little bit different than roads, but not significantly, to computer system implementation projects that I have done company-wide. I have a very strong negotiation background with over 10 years of contract drafting, contract management, contract litigation, and resolution for over 200 contracts ranging in the $100 million up to $1 billion worth. The third thing is I was in human resources managing global talent management for the company I worked for over 8 years, where I learned that even though I'm an engineer, most issues can't be solved exclusively by technical solutions, even though we'd like that to be, but have a huge human complexity and emotion aspect to them that must be addressed. And I've seen that with roads and things that go on with the transportation systems in a city also. In my adult life, I have lived in 8 states and 11 cities, so my husband and I have seen a whole lot of issues relating to transportation, good and bad. And finally, I have a passion for recreation, biking, running. In my current age, probably more walking, but where transportation systems either impede or improve those activities. The top issue, I believe, facing Scottsdale, this is kind of like this all-encompassing thing, is prioritizing and managing the necessary capital expansion, I believe, that has to be done as the city of Scottsdale changes and grows in, 1, an inflationary environment, 2, an extremely spread out city. It's extremely long, not typical of a very concentric type city, and a city with very diverse multi-use interests. So I think I've lost you guys.
No, we're here.
You're still
We're here.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So thank you. I really thank you for your consideration. I value the council's time and the service that you do to Scottsdale. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? No? Thank you so much. Next, we have Lee Kaufheld.
All right. Thank you. First off, just thank you for the nomination. My name is Lee Kaufheld. My address is 7726 East Thomas Road, Scottsdale. I've been here for just about 12 years now. I was fortunate enough to join our community then. My experience with transportation has been varied. For several years, I did food delivery professionally to large chain grocery stores and things like that. I also did pest control, where I drove all around the valley, experiencing all of the roads and all the different ways that the municipalities put that together. And I'm also a diverse road user. So not only was my job to drive around, but these days I have ridden a bike, I have walked through Scottsdale, I have driven through Scottsdale, I've used our buses, our trolleys, and I have, and rideshare and things like that. The top issues, you know, there's, transportation is so much. One of the things I think a lot about is I once, when I did pest control, I was driving in Tempe, and there was no buffer between the sidewalk and the road that I was on, and I was driving legally below the speed limit. There was a child who was just walking and stepped off the curb at just the wrong time, and I hit that child. And we were all, we were all behaving legally, normally, but because of that transportation issue, I never found out how that person, how they fared afterwards. But it's something I think a lot about, that transportation affects all of us in all the different road user ways. And I'd like to make sure that Scottsdale continues to be a safe place for everybody who uses the road and the transportation corridors that we provide. I guess that's my time. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Thank you so much, sir. And next we have Robert Marman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Bob Marman. I live at 9087 East Warrow Drive with my wife and the dog, and been here about 17 years. And I am a licensed professional civil engineer. Scottsdale is evolving its road construction process, finishing up some major projects and evolving to using what we have, making it better, using the infrastructure that's in place to service the community. We still have developers coming, which will put pressure on capacity. We have an evolving demographics, which we have more stay-in-place seniors, which need some transit opportunities. We have children and young families coming in. So we have a lot of different needs. I'm also looking forward to working with your staff, who have prepared some really good plans and construction documents and aren't afraid to do something new. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I'll take some questions.
Are there any questions? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I will now entertain a vote for the Transportation Commission, and each council member can vote for one nominee. And I will begin by voting for Robert Marman. Betty?
I vote for Lee Koftheil.
Lee Koftheil.
Mr. Marman.
Mr. Marman.
Lee Koftheil.
Lee Koftheil.
Okay. Mr. Lee Koftheil has been appointed. Thank you. Okay. This concludes our appointments and our appointment process for today. I would like to thank all of our nominees for their interest in serving on a board or commission. We are fortunate to have received such qualified applicants for the positions on our boards and commissions. They are important. Even if you were not appointed today, your application will remain on file for consideration at a future date if there are additional vacancies. City staff will contact individuals appointed this evening and provide them with the information on the next steps regarding their appointment. The City of Scottsdale is very fortunate to have such dedicated and talented individuals willing and ready to serve our city. Thank you all very much. Mayor, I turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you. That concludes the appointment process. I move to adjourn the City Council special meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, please record your vote. Unanimous. We are adjourned, and we will begin our regular meeting at 5 o'clock. Thank you.